recording.
Okay. Thank you, Susan and Kathy, and we'll start talking about the North Shore Birding Festival, which is December 1st through 5th. So there are over 70 field trips this year, and still a lot of good ones are available, although some are filled. And we added 2 new trips already, and we may be adding more. I would suggest that the best way to know if we're going to add any new trips or perhaps inch up the number of participants in any trip is to be on the mailing list, because we promised to let everybody know at the same time. With this grid that is actually I just made a few days ago, the ones in green are the photo trips. So that's easy to find if you're a photographer. And we have lots of great local and returning guides. The guides are the trip leaders are the heart of the festival, and we're so grateful for their time and talents. We have a couple new visiting guides this year, Hannah Buschart and Eric Dale Ostrander. Hannah and Eric are podcasters, and they're from Oregon, and they're coming. Alan Needle from Manomet Bird Observatory, who's talking next week, is coming, and I'll talk a little bit more about these guys in more detail in a second. Kathy, you want to talk about Hannah and Eric real quick?
All right, so we're really excited to have Hannah and Eric from Hannah and Eric Go Birding, and if you haven't checked out their podcast, be sure you do. So they are very good birders, and they love to travel, and they go actually internationally. So they've been around to a lot of locations, and they know how to look for birds. They're very ethical birders. They're a lot of fun to be around. So if you go on one of their trips, you will have fun, but you'll still see birds, and you'll still get a great experience. They used to live in Central Florida, so they're familiar with our area, though they've never been to the wildlife drive. So they'll be very excited to see all we have to offer. They do own a bed and breakfast in Cannon Beach, Oregon. So if you ever get out there, they can help you to find, if you go in the right season, the tufted puffins at Haystack Rock. And Hannah also hosts a secondary podcast called Women Birders Happy Hour, which is a lot of fun, and definitely check it out. But there are some trips that they're still available that they're leading. So see if you can join one of their trips. I know I am.
And Alan Needle, who's giving the bird chat next week, is a conservation biologist at Manomet Bird Observatory in Massachusetts, which is, I think, a 75-year-old organization. And they are now sponsors of our festival. So I hope you all will check out their website and learn about what Manomet does. And how we know Alan and how we were able to recruit him for the festival is that he was the co-leader for our Wild Side Nature Tours trip to Maine with Alex Lamoureux. He's friends with Alex Lamoureux from years ago when they did research in Alaska as young biologists. And so he was really a pleasure to have as a leader. He has a brilliant ear. And in addition to the North Shore trips, some of the trips from the McDonald Canal and one owl prowl, Alan will be leading Birding by Ear from the McDonald Canal, and will be able to share his expertise and knowledge with the Gen Z and Millennial trip on Sunday.
And Oakland Nature Preserve.
Yes, Oakland Nature.
Yes.
So Emily Renaud is Senior Communications Manager at Manomet. She's also coming from Manomet in Massachusetts. And there she works on their social media, the web, and the Manomet magazine. She's an avid birder, and as you can see, she's actually a natural science illustrator and has been in several different magazines and publishing. She does have these illustrations are courtesy of her website, emilyphoenixart.com. So that's kind of really fun to look at. And in addition to doing a lot of the birding things, she's also going to do our Drawing from Nature workshop, which if I wasn't leading a thing, I would probably go to, because it looks like it'd be a lot of fun. But she will also be co-leading several of the trips to the North Shore, the Owl Prowl, the Birding by Ear at McDonald Canal. I think she will be really fun to get to know when she comes down.
And then Luis Glace and Mariah Heinrich. Luis is a well-known South Florida birder, a tour guide through birding ecotours, and he's the lead Florida Keys hawk watcher. And Mariah is an amazing raptor spotter as the second hawk watcher at Florida Keys, and she now reps for Phone Scope. Phone Scope is the attachment for your phone to your spotting scopes, which makes it like a camera with a big lens, really. And both Luis and Mariah are reps for Kawa Sporting Optics. This will be their third year leading for us. And we also took a South Florida trip with them. And we just think they're wonderful leaders, a lot of fun. Kathy, are you gonna do Alex?
All right. So,
Alex.
yeah, go ahead, Susan.
Okay, Alex, well, actually Alex and Lauren. So we kind of have had Alex before coming to our some of our trips. He's a US trip leader for Wildside Nature Tours. And he's also manages Lauren, who is gonna come with him, manages the bird banding station at Cape May. So very good birders, very good ear. He also has a good ear. So he's going to be leading a lot of our trips on the North Shore. So if you want to experience some guiding some of our trips, because, you know, Wildside Nature trips, those are pretty expensive trips. But if you want to kind of get a taste of what he's like, you can come to any festival trip and it's very reasonable. So a good way to kind of experience some great new leaders.
All right, so here's one of our top local birders, Dallas Quigley, and he is a plant art biologist and trails coordinator with Lake County Parks and Trails Division. He also is co-owner of the Archaeopteryx Birding and Nature Tours. He also, with Rebecca Smith, they do their tours worldwide. He's been an avid birder for over 25 years. He's an eBird reviewer for Lake and Sumter, and he has coordinated the Florida Breeding Bird Atlas too for Lake County. He is an outstanding birder. He's got a great ear. He's great at flyover birds. I've learned a lot from him. Every time I go out with him, I learn more about our birds here, and he's great at spotting stuff. So if you've never birded with him, you should consider going on one of his trips. And then next slide. All right.
David Simpson is one of Florida's top birders and guides, and he comes to us from Brevard and Indian River counties. He had guided for the festival in the early years, and then he didn't come in a couple of years, but with COVID or whatever. Now he's back, and he's a lot of people. He's a brilliant birder, so he's good to go with.
And then we have another great local leader, Chris Newton, and he's seen over 700 ABA species. He gets around, he goes to other states and locations. He's an Osceola County bird guide. He was one of the original people to survey Lake Apopka North Shore. So he knows a lot of the history and what's been here in the past, which is really great to know. He's leading all 5 days. I got to tell you, he's a lot of fun to bird with. You'll have fun because, you know, birding shouldn't be all serious. You should go out and have fun. So check out his trips.
And then Steve Shaluta is a wonderful photographer, lives in Lake County, and we used to see him on the drive a lot, but now he spends a lot of time at Ocala Forest and Emeralda and some of those parks up there. And then Max Weekly is a young up-and-coming birder and photographer, and we've put them together, and they're originally were just doing Emeralda on Sunday, trip 55, but now we've added a new trip with them, trip 16A to Sawgrass Island Preserve, which is a Lake County Water Authority preserve right next to the Ocala Forest. And that trip will have a focus on fill flash, which is what Steve uses to make his bird portraits look just so amazing. And so that'll be really educational if anybody is already into photography. So, all right, well, the North Shore Birding Festival, it's in its 7th year. This is a project of Orange Audubon Society to profile the Lake Apopka North Shore, which we think is a very special place. And 7 years ago when we started, it wasn't very well known. So this is what the website looks like. And the URL is northshorebirdingfestival.com. And this menu on the left is quite easy to navigate. You got your homepage, you got your schedule, you got your speakers and leaders, you got your locations and lodging, registration, just a little info on that, and then any miscellaneous stuff we put under the contact page. And if you have read all about what you want to pick on trips, then you hit register now and go ahead to that. So on locations and lodging, we have this new map of all the locations. And here's the Lake Apopka North Shore. Lake Apopka, if anybody isn't familiar with it, is in the center of the state, a little bit northwest of Orlando. And it used to be the 2nd biggest lake in the state, but this part of it was drained for agriculture. This whole part of it then was bought out by the St. Johns River Water Management District, and it's the Lake Apopka North Shore wetlands, and very, very birdy. It was the top eBird hotspot in Florida until I think just until Hurricane Ian, right? Is that right,
I
Kathy?
think it was that bar-tailed godwit. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, so Fort DeSoto is now one species ahead. But anyway, it's very rich in bird life. And this is where we started featuring this. And by the way, I think I'll show in a second about the Lake Apopka Wildlife Drive. That had already opened by the time we started this festival in 2016. And the land manager suggested that we feature this other part that had no driving access, just bicycling and walking, and get people familiar with it, wanting to walk and bike in. And during the festival, we have driving access all through there. So that was the beginning. And then bit by bit, we've added other sites in a big circumference in Central Florida. And as I said, this grid has just been updated to be really easy to use. And the ones in green are the photo trips. There's 70 trips, and this is the schedule page. You can download that grid I just showed as a PDF, or you can do the 5-page version. And then I've just finished this illustrated brochure on the festival with a lot of pictures. And then in the schedule page, each trip of the 70 trips has a description and a picture. So you really can choose your trips with a lot of knowledge, thanks to all that. All right, Kathy.
All right, so starting, was it 2 years ago, we started basing our festival at Wekiwa Springs State Park, which is really considered the gem of all state parks at the youth camp. Because after COVID, we realized that there were some vacancies in the youth camp and we had an opportunity to rent it out. So youth camp is in cooperation with the Florida Federation of Garden Clubs. They were permitted to build this camp on state park property, and it's actually going to be celebrating its 50th year. So featured at Wekiwa Springs State Park at the youth camp is Sandhill. Also by the river itself, there's River Swamp, there's Hardwood Hammock, there's Messick Flatwoods. There's a lot of variety of wildlife, including fox squirrels. It's one of the best places you can see fox squirrels in our area. Next. And a lot of specialty birds, including the beautiful Bachman sparrow, which is a year-round native sparrow found here in the Sandhill. And red-headed woodpeckers, of course, like we showed with the survey. And this is an area that is well maintained by prescribed burning, which maintains the native plant balance. And so birds like the bobwhite and the brown-headed nuthatch, and of course the Bachman sparrow and the red-headed woodpeckers find this a very suitable habitat and are doing quite well there, as well as a wide variety of native plants and beautiful wildflowers.
And you're doing surveys to document how these species that are fire dependent have have increased since before the days of extensive burning. Am I correct?
Exactly. Yep. The surveys have been over 30 years now. So, Deborah's going to talk about this part about some of the, well, actually, let me talk about this first part. Let me go back one. So there are 2 trips still open just as birding trips at Wekiwa that I highly recommend. Trip 13, Hannah and Eric, as well as myself, will be leading that, and that'll be a lot of fun. So if you don't have a Friday field trip, I recommend that one. You will enjoy it. And also, if you have free time on Monday, Trip 66 features the park biologist, Paul Lamardo, who knows so much about the area. He's worked there a long time, and he knows a lot, not only about the birds, but about the plant and the other wildlife too. That's still open.
And trip 35 is a photo trip taught by Cindy Manel and Leanne Posavat. And there's just a lot of photo opportunities at this beautiful park. And oops, I'm sorry. And then I want to talk about this Techniques for Successful Nature Photography trip by Rainier Munguia. And this is a repeat from last year. He'll have indoors at the youth camp dining hall, trip 39, Saturday afternoon, 1 to 4. And then Sunday morning, 7:30 to 11, will be on the Lake Apopka Wildlife Drive. That's the time when other visitors will be on the drive. So they will be careful to stay out of the way of the other visitors and get some quality time with Rainier on improving their photography. People who took it last year had a lot of fun. And on Sunday, he'll be assisted by Joyce and Bill Stefancic, who are regulars on the drive, and especially Joyce is a fantastic photographer. The logo for our festival, the Fulvous Whistling Duck, she did that, and she's contributed many photos for us. Also, since we have Wekiwa Spring State Park to use, we are doing birding by kayak again on the Wekiwa River. That's trip 17, Friday from 9 to 12. That might be almost full. And then both Friday and Saturday night, now that we feel COVID is largely subsided, we are doing dinners with keynotes. And Friday night, it is Rainier again. He has a different topic. And I'm sorry, he's doing Saturday night. I'll go into the details here. I'm focused on the food aspect. Orange Audubon has some board members who are wonderful with food. They pick a good caterer and they put together all the little extras and do a really nice job. So it's really worth it. Friday is going to be Crazy Greek Kitchen, and Saturday barbecue. Exact vendor hasn't been finalized, but it'll be delicious. And regular price is $30, which includes the talk. Student price $20, and youth up to 17 years will be $10. And then you have to pay to get into the park. Notice that you got to get into the park by 5 or 5:30. We will let everybody know who registers exactly what it is, but there might be a line, so you might as well shoot for 5. You're welcome to shoot for earlier and come to the youth camp, which, as Kathy has explained, is in a beautiful sandhill setting, and walk down to Lake Prabat or something, and then come to the dinner. And then, well, I'll talk about this in a second. Let me just say what's the Friday keynote talk is by Hannah and Eric, 5 years of podcasting. And they're a lot of fun, as Kathy said. And Saturday, it's Rainier talking about birding abroad, joys of traveling for birds. And he'll feature some of his favorite destinations. If you want to see his photography, it's wildstockphotos.com. And then after the dinner, you have time to scoot out and get on the tram and do trip 22, 6:30 to 8, the Wekiva flashlight tram ride, where they take you all over, and we will have them stop and listen for owls and just enjoy the night sounds. And then we have owl prowls both Friday and Saturday night. Last year they filled up quickly, as they did this year, and last year we added some extra ones, but we're really dependent on the leaders. And so if some leaders volunteer to do extra ones, we will add some sections. And how will you know? You're going to be on the mailing list, and everybody on the mailing list will be notified. Okay. This is Luis leading, and there's Mariah. He's actually looking for a black widow spider right there, or a red widow spider, I think. Okay, well, the festival's featured area, as we said, is the North Shore of Lake Apopka, and here's the map that you get when you come in. And here's the wildlife drive that goes on the eastern part, coming out at Jones Road. But we are going to be on the western part. If you come out on Jones Road and go left, and then you get to 4488A and make a left and go all the way to the end of it, that's the McDonald Canal area, also called the North Shore Trailhead. And most of our trips will be based out of there. Even those that are going to Clay Island will still base out of the McDonald Canal, simply because it does have restrooms and it's a convenient place. And that's where we'll have the lunches. By the way, the Lake Apopka Wildlife Drive, as you know, is incredibly popular. It's open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 7 to 3. The gate is open, and you must exit by 5. And this is Cindy, one of our ambassadors, giving some tips in the brochure. That's something that Orange Audubon does to help keep the drive running smoothly, since it's not a park and it's not staffed as a park. So our helping has been really helpful. And if anybody on this bird chat is interested in joining one of the ambassadors, we could use some more. We'd love to have you. So here's a picture of Lake Apopka and the North Shore in farm days, but the flooding and back and forth polluted the lake. And so there was money to buy all the farms out. And then this is the current North Shore restoration area. And we go in the McDonald Canal right here. And here is what it looks like as you approach the North Shore Trailhead. And I'm going to let someone else talk. Kathy?
Okay. So as you come in, you can see there's 2 parking areas. There's a gravel parking area right here. And then there's parking by the boat ramp. And there's and there's a portable restroom. It's actually, for a portable restroom, it's really pretty nice. We ask that if you do come, you don't park where the boat trailers are supposed to park. So therefore, that's why you might have to go to the overflow, but there's still plenty of parking there. And we often do see wildlife right there. That's where we have our lunches set up, and it's just a nice place to relax. And if you do get a lunch there, there's a few picnic area, like picnic benches, but bring your own chair if you can. You can just relax and enjoy the birds while you meet some new people. Go to the next slide. Starting point for many trips. If you are on an early trip, bring a flashlight because it's dark out there. Of course, it's dark out there and you might hear owls. Like last year, we had great horned female just greeting us in the morning with a little scream. It was pretty cool. And we did see bobcats, like I said. All right, next. And here, this shows the pavilion where the lunches are set up, and you can see people at chairs, they're having a good time. And there's the portable restroom. They clean it every day. So it's in good shape. Next. So we want to let you know there's availability on these 2 birding by ear trips. And if you've never, done a birding by ear trip, these are 2 of the best leaders that I could think of. Alan from Manomet. I haven't met him yet, but I can't wait to meet him because I've heard a lot about how outstanding he is at birding by ear. And I know he's going to find some things we didn't even know was out there. I just know it. So if I wasn't leading a trip, I'd be on that trip. And Scott Simmons, same thing. He's one of the best birders and naturalists in our area. And he's been going out to the North Shore for a really long time. So he knows a lot of the history out there. And he's also an excellent ear birder. And just recently, like within the last 2 weeks, someone did hear the woodcock out there. So there's at least one, and there's a good chance you might hear it among a lot of other things. We're hoping we've had different sparrows show up out there, buntings, all kinds of stuff. So that would be a great trip, and there is space. Okay. And these are some of the birds that we've had out there in the past. We've had white-crowned sparrows, which have a beautiful little song, and they're so neat to see. So hopefully they'll be back out there this year. And we also have clay-colored sparrow. We had those last year. We had one, and it was a pretty consistent little bird that a lot of people got good looks at.
I want to point out that this is a Steve Shaluta picture, and you can see how perfect it is and everything. He uses the still flash. So if you're a photographer and want to learn more from someone state of the art, look for his trip.
And in the past, we've also had grasshopper sparrows out there. And since grasshopper sparrows have already been spotted in 2 of our local parks, and I don't think anyone's really done a lot out of McDonald Canal lately, I think there's a fairly reasonable chance that they might be there this year. So that'd be another cool sparrow. What's really neat at this park is that they actually built bluebird houses on the back of the signs out there, and there are nesting. They won't be nesting right then, but there are bluebirds there. So, and this is Jack, one of our Audubon members, and he is leading the sunset trip. And this is one of his absolutely fabulous bluebird pictures. Yeah, there's bluebirds there. And
So I'll do this part
you
then.
do this one? Okay.
All right. So to the left of facing the boat launch is this gate that goes to where the shad harvesting operation is set up. That's a fishing operation to take out this bottom feeding fish, the gizzard shad. And they sell it in Louisiana for bait for crawfish. But that should be going on because it's a winter thing. And we'll walk past it to do a walk along that direction, or the opposite direction to enter through a gate. And if you want to do it on your own another time, you can walk or take your bicycle through here, but we have the gate combinations, and we'll go through, and then we'll be on these gravel roads, and all the terrain on either side is wet and birdy. So we'll just, depending on what your leader wants to do, we'll stop and line up and, line up the cars and get out and walk a little and bird.
So here's some other birds that you might see. The palm warblers are back in force, and they're a lot of fun to watch and great to photograph. At this property, I have seen and heard all 4 of the common owls of Central Florida. So that one's winking. So barred owls, great horned, screech owl, and barn. I've had all of them out there at McDonald Canal at different times. One time I had them all there at the same day. Bobcats frequently are seen out there. So no guarantees, but that, to me, that's the best place to see them on the North Shore is at McDonald Canal and driving out. Sometimes you'll see them as you're driving out on the property. And lots of woodpeckers, the downy and stuff, and a lot of bald eagles out there. Sometimes they'll actually just sit on the post out there or one of the trees right where you're eating. You'll see them flying over. They are, getting ready to nest, so we could see some nest building happening. And next.
Okay, and we really want to pull in younger participants, college students. So we've made almost all the trips, half price for college students. And then further, we have 2 trips that are intended to get a critical mass of college students, and they're taught by young leaders. That's Birding for Gen Z and Millennials, Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon. And the Saturday one is led by Hannah and Eric, and Sunday, Alan Needle and Emily Renault. They need someone knowledgeable about the local property. So I've stepped up. I was a community college professor, and it's a passion of mine is to bring in younger people into this fun world of birding. So if you know anybody, recommend that, please.
Okay, so actually, any student, so we know we have some young birders that are elementary age, middle school age, and high school age. We've been doing young birders field trips since last year, and we're gonna have a special one at the festival where you get to go in, with a parent and get in the car and go where normally you either have to ride a bike or hike long distances. So you'll get a much better look and get to see a lot more than you normally get to see. And leaders will be Hannah and Eric, which you'll love them. They're a lot of fun. And myself and Susan. So this is designed for ages 8 to 18. If they're younger than 16, they need to be accompanied by a paid adult. It's only $20 for adults, which includes your lunch. And for those that are the young birders, it's only $10. So it's a great deal, and it'll be a lot of fun. We will see lots of stuff. I guarantee it. Right, next.
So I'll talk about the kayak trip we're going to do. The boat ramp is let me see if I can put my finger on it. So this is the parking that we showed you, the bathroom, the pavilion. And then this is the McDonald Canal, a little canal that connects to the big canal, the Apopka-Beauclair Canal, that connects Lake Apopka to the next lake in the chain going north, Lake Beauclair. And this is what the canal looks like. Boats go down it. Not much kayaking, but our trip is a kayak trip. They have a really nice kayak launch there. And of course, the bike trail goes along the side of it. You might see cyclists going along. And on our driving trips back in the western part of the North Shore from McDonald Canal, we like to go over the AB Canal Bridge, and we usually park and bird around there. Tends to be flycatchers we tend to see there, or different water birds. And then the Clay Island is another entrance that you can take for walking in or biking in. And some of the trips are going to be focusing on in this area, the Clay Island area. However, we will start them from the McDonald Canal because that has bathrooms. And this Clay Island, somebody might get lost trying to find that for the first time for the festival. So I will turn this over to Kathy.
Okay. And I want to mention Clay Island currently has at least one vermilion flycatcher female. I did see 2, but I don't know if the 2 have been reported. So there's vermilion flycatchers out here on the property right now. So there are 4 observation towers built to provide views of the restoration. And actually, they fixed up all the towers last year. So chances are on one of your trips, you'll probably visit one of those, depending on what your leaders want to do. And we scout ahead of time, so we kind of will know where we want to go to look for certain things. So next, the sunrise photography and birding trips do visit the Lakeside Tower. And it's beautiful to watch the sunrise. I got to go on one of those trips last year. And the coolest thing is we had a perched short-tailed hawk literally next to that tower, which we discovered as the fog lifted, and everyone got good looks and photographs of this bird. So that's something, if you've never had the opportunity to experience sunrise out there, this is the best way to do it. So next.
And all these trips, Thursday, trip 1, trip 10, and trip 45 Sunday, they're just 10 people, and most of them still have some space.
Oh, speaking of the vermilion flycatcher, that's the photo of it. I took that last week. She was very cooperative out there at Clay Island. So if they should hopefully, they stayed last year, so there's no guarantee, but hopefully they will stick around. And the male that was seen by Sam Mitchum, which was at the beginning of the wildlife drive, I have a feeling it's somewhere out there. So we just need to find it. So maybe we'll get a male too. Next. And a few years ago, we've had both smooth-billed and groove-billed Ani. So we're hoping one or maybe both come back. Wouldn't that be cool? And so that could be a cool bird that we hope that might show up this year. And this was from a couple years ago. We did get to see it on many of our trips. And of course, there's a lot of birds of prey out there, such as the merlin, such as peregrine falcons, short-tailed hawk, among others. A lot of tree swallows this time of year, and great for the photography classes. You might trips, you might get a chance to try to photograph them, or even just to watch them is really nice.
This is just some scenics of the gravel roads that you're going to be traversing, which are working roads for the North Shore. Used to be farms, and now it's just restoration area. They get rid of the invasive plants and plant more natives, and gradually are restoring habitat as well as improving water quality in the lake. And just another shot. And these are the pumps that pump the water from the lake and put it through the marsh flowway, letting the marshes clean it, and then either put it back in the lake or let it go down the AB Canal to the next lake, depending on conditions. Now Green Mountain, Susan will do.
Yep. So the Green Mountain Trailhead, we do have a trip there. And I think that one may be full, but we're going to kind of look at trips. You can check, there may be a couple spaces left, but that is part of the North Shore. It has a beautiful wooded area at the beginning hike, and it does connect into McDonald Canal. The other thing that's real nice is there is a scenic overlook which kind of looks up over the area. So you can kind of see birds at the treetops. You can see hawks flying by. It is the trip 51 on Sunday, nice early. So it is near Ferndale. And we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So going up and down this, it's actually, when it says mountain, it's a Florida mountain because we actually have switchbacks. You can't go straight down. It's a little steep. So there are a lot of bikers that use this. And if I were riding, I think this would be my preferred one. Tower, like I said, the tower is a great place. You have a great overlook, but all the trees and everything around there also have a pretty birdie. So it's kind of a nice little place. And if you haven't been out there, this is a good way to check out a new area too. And as you can see, short-tailed hawks have been seen there. We do have short-tailed hawks quite a few different places. Of course, it's birds and they fly, but quite a few of the areas that we go to on our trips do have short-tailed hawks that fly through. So this is one place where we've seen them. And Greg Gensheimer, a Friends of the Green Mountain Scenic Byway, is going to co-lead the trip. So he's actually one of the experts on this area. So it'll be a really good trip. And also Ferndale Preserve in Lake County, 1 mile from Green Mountain, is a Friday trip, trip 14. Ferndale is going to be led by, I believe, Gallus. And if you go to Ferndale, there's several different habitats. I always think of sparrows with Ferndale, but there's a lot of buntings and that type of bird that is in Ferndale. So, and just a couple of the different painted buntings. We do have painted buntings that are quite a few of our locations, but again, you do have to, they're pretty hard to see because they like to tuck in, but they are there to find. So one of the things. New this year, we do have the Neighborhood Lake Scenic Trail and Trailhead. This is going to be led by Gallus Quigley of Archaeopteryx Birding and Nature Tours. And this is going to be on this nice paved road. So this is, we consider this like an accessible, and I think in the past, people in wheelchairs have gone on this trip. But again, we're going to be looking at all of these brushes and everything along the edge, and kind of without kind of having to wade through any, bushy areas. But some of the typical things you could see, different, like the palm warblers, painted buntings. Again, probably indigos would be in this area. It looks like quite that habitat. So that's going to be trip 4 on Thursday, and it's going to be up to 2.5 miles. So it's a paved trail. So nice, easy walk, or if you're in a wheelchair, a roll. So.
Mhm. Okay, I'll talk about Orlando Wetlands Park, the walking tour with photography and birding. That's going to be led by Reinhard Giesler and his wife, and Karen Hamblett, all of whom are volunteers at Orlando Wetlands Park and aficionados and amazing birders. And Reinhard and Yuta are amazing photographers as well. I think Karen's pretty good too. So that will be a slow walking trip with a lot of focus on photography. And actually he volunteered to do 2, Saturday trip 28 and Sunday trip 48 from 7 to 11:30. I highly recommend those. And then we changed the final trip on Monday morning to being a photo trip. And it's being led by Gilberto Sanchez and Jim Werner, who are also volunteers out there and good photographers. So photographers, tune into this one on Monday if you're free. And it's, you don't even have to do much walking, and it should be great.
All right, so I'm going to talk about this one. This is a nice little 2 places on the North Shore, Oakland Nature Preserve and Newton Park. And again, I'm really excited for this because Alan and Emily from Mama, they're going to be leading. I'll be there as the local guide, but these are fabulous birders. And even if you've been to Oakland Nature Preserve and Newton Park and you're like, just ordinary stuff, no, they will help you to see things that we probably just haven't, don't have the awareness to know that's there. They have great knowledge of birds to, even if you know something about the painted bunting, I'm sure you'll learn a lot more. So I highly recommend, if you're free Sunday morning, this would make a great trip. And Newton Park can be an awesome place in the wintertime. The ducks, they're right there, thousands of ducks. So we'll have scopes and you can really get great looks at these ducks. And Alan and Emily will know so much more detail and help us to understand about what ducks are flying, and look for the raptors that will be flying, to look for the ducks. And here's just a sampling. Of course, in the past, and showing up hopefully soon, we've had these bronzed cowbirds down on the bottom left there. Gorgeous birds that are just kind of making their way from out west, and they just show up and they're really, really cool. And we're hoping that they'll be back over there, as well as, it's a great place to see and photograph the purple gallinoo, and sometimes snail kites are there, all kinds of stuff. So check that out. You will enjoy it, I'm sure.
And we're wrapping this up now, and I'm going to open it to questions. But a final point is, if you're from out of town, where should you stay? Well, we have some suggestions on the locations and lodging tab, and we have been able to get group rates for 2 hotels, only 2. The Apopka Hampton Inn and Suites and the Microtel in Leesburg. And if you're considering between either of those 2, and there's a code, and I actually don't have it published on the website, you'd have to email me to get the code. But how would you make the decision? You would decide, are you going to go to night events at Wekiwa Springs State Park? If so, then you definitely would want to stay in a Apopka, because as you come out at night, you're not going to want to go too far. But if you know you don't do night events at festivals because you got to get up early, then you might as well stay at one of the Lake County locations and consider the Microtel in Leesburg, which is over here somewhere. So, and of course, I know everybody can find their own lodging through their own programs. And there's camping, though, listed also on the locations and lodging page. And incidentally, the Orange County parks rent 45 days in advance. So we're already right now a month in advance of the festival. So if you wanted to book a space at Magnolia Park, which is just a little ways down from the wildlife drive, I guess over here. Yeah. I don't know that they still have spaces. I think they only have about 18 campsites, but I would suggest you right away give a call over there if you're camping.
And Trimble Park, which is very, very close on the other side.
That's a 45-day
And the same thing, same count, Orange County.
Yep.
And there's also some Lake County camping suggestions on that locations and lodging page. I'm pointing, this is Orange County and this is Lake County, Florida. So anyway, all that's spelled out on the locations and lodging. And I think that is all we're going to have prepared, but we will open it up to questions.
Okay. Kathy, I did have one question going back. Let me see where it is. Oh, Laura wanted to know, and I think you were talking about Wekiva at the time. Do they have armadillos there?
I've only seen them a few times. I don't think there's a big population. Because I go out there all year and I spend the summer out there. So I've only seen them just a couple times.
I will have to say, I think I've seen more bears than armadillos there.
Yeah.
So
Kathy leads the nature studies at the youth camp in the summer.
Though we don't see a lot of bears out there either, just to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Or in the neighborhoods.
No, not like, yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a question? And I think pretty much the website has a lot of information. So the dates, Laura's asking about the dates. So it's December 1st through the 5th. So it runs on Thursday through Monday. If you go to the website, it has everything organized by the day. So depending on, like if you're working Saturdays and Sundays, everything's delineated as far as time. So, and there's some great descriptions of the trips. So I think we have pretty much something for everyone for sure.
Yes.
And this is what the registration site looks like. If you click register now, you'll be pushed to this Sign Up Genius site. And here we have a couple links. By the way, we're doing this all as volunteers and using programs that weren't even really meant for this, but we manipulated them to be able to successfully register for a festival, which is how we can keep the prices so low and at the same time fundraise towards our nature center. So one thing that you have to do is register through Sign Up Genius, and I'll show you how to do it in a second. And then also fill out a pre-festival questionnaire, which includes a liability waiver. Those of you who've come before or gone on our field trips, you know that we used to have the paper or PDF fill in liability waiver. Well, now it's incorporated into the questionnaire, the pre-festival questionnaire. So just click this link, take that. You can do that before or after, but that is required to complete your registration. And each person has to do that separately. And you can do 2 people at a time, but again, each person has to do that separately. Okay, so here are the 70 trips starting Thursday. And what you do is, let's say I want to take waterfowl with Chris Newton Craig Watson and Pamela Ford. And so what you do is just hit sign up. And then you've already kind of figured out what you want to take before you get into this, using the website and those PDFs that I mentioned. But anyway, you pick your trips. Say we want to go get that birding by ear on Saturday. Birding by ear. Let's say we want to take it with Alan. Okay, we click that. And then whatever, let's say we want to do dinner. Anyway, you pick them and then you go down to the bottom and hit submit and sign up. And then you're supposed to say, although I will pay during the step, my registration is not complete until I and any other participant for whom I'm registering fill out the Google Creek Festival questionnaire with each person liability. Please sign yes that you agree. So you have to do yes. And then let's say I'm registering for 2 people. I'll pull down 2 and then select, okay, are we students or are we regular? We're regular. This one is going to have lunch. I know because that's why it's 50. And then this one, I'm going to say yes again. And then let's say I'm just doing 1 person on this one. And here, if there's a lunch, oh, I'm sorry. Well, that waterfowl one, it was 50 because it's long. It's 7:30 to 2. Okay. But normally the only ones that are 50 are the ones with lunch. So if one with lunch, you can pick regular non-vegetarian, regular vegetarian. I am a vegetarian. So here we go. And then you've got your address, and then you have to fill out your emergency contact. And if the second person, if there's no second person, then you write NA, and you have to do the NAs on all this. I've had calls from people who didn't know they had to do that, and they got stuck. And NA, and then sign up and pay now. I guess I'll have to put some kind of number in here to get this to work. 333, just as a fake number. Okay, sign up and pay. And then, oops, I had an error. What was wrong? Oh, you're supposed to do it with no dashes. Okay. It's amazing what we made this program do. Okay, sign up and pay now. All right. So, and then it goes to PayPal and you'll pay. So pretty simple. And if you don't have a PayPal account, you put in your credit card. Okay, you can do it either way. And then you'll receive a notification from Sign Up Genius, and you'll be set. And in the week before, we'll send another email with some tips and directions, and then you'll meet at the field trip site. So are there any questions?
I think we had one question. Cindy Manell wants to know, are we selling t-shirts?
Well, it's an open question at the moment. We will definitely sell what we have left over from last year, and we're working on a new design actively. It's getting kind of tight, a month away, but we hope to. Okay, Cindy?
We hope to.
And as a matter of fact, Cindy, we could use help selling. I know you're a volunteer with us, so we'll talk. Okay.
And I think you guys will really like it if we do get that new one out. If not this time, it'll be upcoming. So it's a great design. Any other questions?
We know a lot of you have already been with the festival in the past, and it's fun to see you again. See if you can bring in anybody new, though. One thing we're doing with this festival is bragging about how visitors bring money into the local economy, ecotourism. So, and we used to, before COVID, we had 18 people from 18 states and 2 provinces of Canada. I counted, I think, 2 days ago, maybe, and there was 11 states. Now we're inching up. But anyway, if you have any friends from out of town, tell them about it. Okay, well, this will be archived. You can look at it again if you need to. And we look forward to
Or
seeing you
for your
register.
friends. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Hope to see you soon.
And since